Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome yet again to another episode of Dinner Guide. My name is Chef Andy, and today I've got something rather special for us to make on the show. We're going to be traveling all the way to the streets of Cuba, and we're going to be reincarnating a very, very classic dish. I'm going to first of all mention the name of the dish, the Ropa Vieja. In Spanish dialect, this would refer to dirty clothes, but in particular, the name is also very much a common delicacy, and the dish is a common delicacy within the Cubans, and this is a very, very simple way of how to make it. So I'm going to start off by introducing the ingredients, and then we'll proceed. So from the front, we've got some garlic and some onion. I've also got some tomato chutney. I've also got some cumin, some garlic powder, some olive oil there, and some tomato paste, and one piece there of some green pepper. We've also got some plantain, which we're going to be making that to go with the Ropa Vieja. And I've also got some water here, some frozen peas there, about 1 can of tomato sauce, a bit of some fresh coriander, and last but not least, some beef flank that has already been cooked, which we're actually going to turn into some very, very beautiful things later in the show. So we're going to take a short commercial break now, and when we come back, we're going to just dive into this very simple dish, and you can all be able to see how it's done. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you who missed the introduction, we were just introducing the Ropa Vieja, a very, very classic and very staple dish among the Cubans. And we're just going to be bringing our own touch and just putting in our own little addition to the dish. So very, very simply, we're going to start off with the very, very fast action. So basically, we've actually got a very beautiful cut here of some beef flank. We've been broiling that for anywhere between 8 to 9 hours. So this is basically something you have to remember to do way ahead of time. And all you need to do at this stage is, once it's cooked, allow it some time to cool off and proceed to start shredding your meat. And it's a very, very simple technique. So for that, you'll require just a pair of tongs and a very small sharp knife. And you can actually just start by almost scraping the meat as you proceed. Of course, proceeding with a motion of almost tearing the flesh as you proceed and not cutting it. And just proceed to do the same until you get to the very end. And this is a very simple process called shredding. And it's very particular among especially places where they're very they're very, very reserved about how they cut their meat. This particular stage actually is a very common occurrence, especially when you cook the dish within the amount of time stipulated, which is 8 to 10 hours. And what happens is your beef flank would just naturally just break up, and the shreds would actually just form on their own. But just for demonstration, we're just doing it by hand on the show. So just proceed to shred your meat. Of course, making sure to try to get as much thin strips as you possibly can. And something else to also remember, if you actually have a pressure cooker with you as well, it will save you the cooking time by almost half. So if you're using a pressure cooker to cook your beef flank, please also remember to calibrate your timing to 4 hours and not 8 hours. So we're just about done with that one piece. And and proceed just to finish off right at the very end. And of course, very important to make sure that your shreds of beef are very, very thin, and very important as well to also pick a very good cut of meat that has a very good balance of fat content to meat content, being that if you have if you have very, very lean meat, it might actually be impossible to get very good shreds. So you should be looking at something that's either from the flank or from the shin, and you should be able to get some very, very good beef for your dish. Right, so it's as simple as that. Now proceed to just break the bigger chunks, or rather the ones that are still a little chunkier than the rest. Right, so once done, just transfer your meat shreds onto a bowl. And now traditionally you'd basically have to cook your beef in a bit of stock and a bit of onion and give it quite a bit of time to cook. But because we already had time to cook our beef, we're just going to go straight into making the base of the dish. And it's a very, very simple one. It actually very much resembles something somewhat like a very, very dry beef curry. So you're actually going to see the textures much later. But we're going to proceed by heating our pan. And we're also going to heat up the pan at the very end. And that's where we're basically going to start frying our plantain. So give your oil quite a bit of time to heat up, anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes. And once done with your beef, proceed to grab your plantain and a sharp knife, and very simply begin by taking the tail bits off. And proceed to discard those. Second up, just grab your plantain, and using your knife, start from one of the very ends and continue to slice your plantain right across. And this should actually make it very easy to just peel your plantain. And just reserve it in the skin and proceed to do the same thing for the other piece. Of course, once more leaving it in the skin, and that will actually prevent it from changing color too soon. And now to the other hot pan, we're going to proceed to add a bit of oil. And you're going to proceed to grab your garlic and your onion and proceed to break your cloves up. And break out about 5 to 6 cloves of garlic. And now just proceed to begin peeling your garlic. And proceed to just roughly chop that. So we're going to be incorporating about 3 cloves. Add that into your pan, and you can reserve the rest of your garlic. And basically just give your pan just a bit of time to heat up. Give your garlic as well just a bit of time to just build the aromas and just flavor your oil. And just as soon as your garlic starts to turn brown, proceed to add your cumin powder and your peas, and continue mixing that through. and proceed to add just a little bit of water, which should actually help you to really get the flavors between the peas and the spices to combine. Now proceed to allow your water to come to the boil, and while that does so, proceed also to add in your pureed tomatoes. Add also about 1.5 tablespoons of some tomato paste. And last but not least, a bit of some powdered garlic and a bit of some tomato salsa. Now all you need to do is give that a mix and allow that to continue cooking at high heat until it begins to start reducing. But before we do so, we're also going to be adding our beef in there. But remember, we're actually going to add this just as soon as the sauce comes to the boil. And before we do that, we're also going to incorporate just a little bit of some white onion. And this is just going to give your sauce a nice, beautiful lift and just strengthen the flavor of those tomatoes. Now just take your tips off your onions. And now proceed to cut those into very, very fine cubes. And finish your onion off. And proceed to do the same for your other piece. Cut once halfway and proceed to cut that finely. And proceed to finish that last bit off. And now add all your white onion into your sauce. Now proceed to give your sauce a mix. And now once you start to notice your bubbles on the sides of your pot, proceed to add in your beef. Give it a mix. Now allow your sauce to continue cooking at some medium to low heat. So you'll actually have to give that quite a bit of time to cook down, but as I'd mentioned earlier, if you actually own a pressure cooker, it will save you time and it will actually be a little faster. So we're going to take a short commercial break now and allow that to continue cooking down. But when we do come back, I'm going to show you what to do with your plantain. And we're actually going to also see the last result of that very, very beautiful and simple beef dish. Once again, to remind you all of what we were doing on the show today, if you're just tuning in, we were taking a nice, beautiful tour to some beautiful Cuban cuisine today. And we are making a very simple Ropa Vieja, which is a very, very simple stew, which includes a bit of some pulled beef. And we were about to serve that with a bit of plantain. But please don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you who are just tuning in, we were working on a very, very, very beautiful dish, As I'd mentioned at the beginning of the show, I'm taking you back to the suburbs of Cuba, and we're making a Ropa Java, which is a very, very beautiful pulled beef dish. And it's now just about ready, and we're just about to finish that off. But last but not least, we're also going to be incorporating some green pepper. So just proceed to cut that into some juliennes and proceed to add that to your pot. Now give that a mix and allow that just to continue simmering for another few minutes. But before you do so, you will also incorporate your last ingredients, which was about 2 tablespoons of vinegar. And of course, just a bit of salt for seasoning and blackened pepper. Now proceed to give your dish a nice thorough mix, making sure that your seasoning goes right through. Right, so we're going to allow that to continue simmering for just about another few minutes. But we're going to change the pots over, and we're going to bring on one with a bit of oil. And this one is a very, very simple and easy last minute thing to do just before the urge of serving your dinner. And it's very, very simple, just to grab your plantains. I particularly like to just slit them right through the middle, and once you peel, you actually come out with very, very 2 beautiful pieces. And those we're just going to add into our oil. And we're going to proceed to fry those until they're golden brown, and proceed to do the same for the rest of your pieces. But in the meantime, very important to continue mixing your pot through. Remember, the mixture is quite thick, and left unattended, this could actually burn very, very fast. Now, just to come back to your plantain as well, very important to have a bit of some kitchen paper to drain them on as soon as they come out of your fryer or your pan with the oil. And also something also to remember, you can actually cut them into smaller chunks, very much allowed. You can as well deep fry them. If you don't have a deep fryer, you can shallow fry them in a pan with oil. It will actually give you just the same results. For those of you who are probably wondering where to find plantain, it is actually now very much available in the country, although it might actually only be available in selected retail outlets or marketplaces as well. So be sure to actually just have a look and find out where you could find them, but I'm very, very sure most of you should be able to find them within your city centers. Right, so just as soon as your plantain starts to turn brown on the bottom of the sides, proceed to turn over and continue to cook. Of course, giving it quite a bit of time to cook through. And once golden brown on both sides, proceed to remove from the heat and just hold them right above the oil, allowing them to drain any excess, and allow those to drain on some parchment paper, and proceed to do the rest for the rest of your plantain. So we're going to do about just 4 pieces for now, and we're going to reserve the rest. And now your Ropa Vieja is now ready. You can actually just turn down your heat completely and just allow that to settle and just develop those flavors in the bowl. Also give your plantain maybe another 3-4 minutes, and that should be done. But while we proceed to wait for that, we're just going to go ahead and grab a bowl. And we are going to just go ahead and begin to plate the Ropa Java. just spoon that all into one nice beautiful bowl, or the bowl of your choice. Any bowl that you may prefer will do just fine. That will go right on the side of your plate, and very simply finish that off with a bit of some freshly chopped coriander leaves. Right, once chopped, just proceed to sprinkle those right over the top, and that should be just about done. But of course it can't be complete without your plantain, so we're just going to proceed to remove the other two pieces from the oil. You can see that nice beautiful golden shade. Very particular that you also remember, every time you pick your plantain, the colors might actually adjust according to the time span that they've actually been sitting in the shop. And what happens is, the more they continue to mature, you should actually be able to see from these two different pieces of plantain, you can actually be able to see the younger one being very, very yellow, and the more mature one being a little darker, in that it's a little sweeter and it actually has matured a little bit in sugar. So very simply proceed to just grab a plate and proceed to just place your plantain one on top of the other on the side. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a sure way of having yourself a very beautiful and simple Cuban dinner. Thank you so much for tuning in, and once more, I will continue to urge you to give us your feedback by checking out our Facebook page. Do leave your comments, your inquiries, or any particular shows pertaining to this show, and we'll definitely be looking forward to getting back to you with some useful information. So once again, thank you so much. I'm going to reintroduce the dish once more. It is a Ropa Vieja. Very, very simple dish from the Cuban part of the South American continent, and I hope you've all managed to learn something that you can incorporate in your own kitchens. So from myself, thank you so much. Have a lovely dinner this evening, and see you soon. God bless.